Pramod is Mr. Pritam ji joined.
Not yet. I have sent him message and then I called. Okay, he's joining. He just said that he's joining. Yeah, I got just message. He's joining.
Got it, sir.
Hi, good. You are live, huh?
Noted.
Yeah. Hi, hi, doctor.
Hi, Dr. Sant. I'm so sorry. I sincerely apologize for the delay. I just got out of the meeting and I found a room to to connect.
No, it
So,
looks nice room. So we will start without any delay. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on very interesting topic. Trade facilitation is very close to our heart. It's really important for today for progress. And I'm lucky to have today Dr. Pritam Banerjee with us. Before that, I request the immediate immediate chairman, Mr. Shankar Shinde, to give a welcome speech and introduce the subject. Over to you, Shankar ji.
Thank you, Dr. Sant. Welcome, Dr. Pritam Banerjee, sir. It's really privileged to have your insight and have you on the panel of discussion on such an important topic. And I think so we could not have any other person than who has really experienced this industry, working in this industry, and considering the background from the government aspect. So the both perspective come on a common platform, and giving that insights to the trade is really about a need of an hour. Because when we as a trade speak, we will always speak from our perspective. When government speak, government will always speak. But we need a person common who understand both the side. And I think so you are the right person whom we have got on the platform to have this webinar address. So it's really a great privilege to welcome you and to have your insights on this webinar, which is on trade facilitation and a paradigm shift. And AAFA looks forward to have your continued support and also participation on such type of initiative. If you see today, like when we talk about trade facilitation, we always talked about simplification of procedures, simplification of documentation, and how we can reduce the dwell time and the cost. So that has always been our focus when we took. But when we see now with the evolving strategic driver of competitiveness, resilience, and sustainability in global trade, what we witness is a rapid shift. And what is this? It is with regard to the geopolitical changes, the supply chain disruptions, and the increasing digitizations. And India is responding with a strong vision and a decisive action. I think so. This is where we have also experienced when we have passed through the COVID, where we have a shortfall, and we have learned a lesson from it as to how we can be how it has really handicapped us and how we can overcome such type of issue. And considering that government has really taken good initiatives with the IT platform, introducing IT platform at a technology driven, how it can be integrated and how a sustainable platform can be created for the initiative. And the initiatives like what you would be really addressing on the PM Gati Shakti, which are into silos. And with the integrated infrastructure planning, we will have this ULIP has a enabling real-time data exchange across the stakeholders, which will become a very important platform with the visibility and on the real-time basis. I think so when you talk about the digitization from the customs perspective, where the trade is concerned as a freight forward or the customs, we have seen the faceless customs, the e-sanction, the FASTag or the e-way bill system also, which has really reduced the interference of the human into this regular day-to-day work. And at the same time, this push towards multimodal logistics park, which is again and taking ahead with India's commitment in reducing carbon footprints and building a sustainable supply chain logistics. I think it's the green logistics which comes up, which is also very equally important. And the focus on collaboration with bringing together government, industry, and technology platform to create a seamless and a future-ready logistics ecosystem, which is really requirement of an hour. I think so. If you talk about the geopolitical today's, we see the Gulf War or the Red Sea crisis or even the challenges of the Suez Canal. I think so. We need to have a sustainable Atmanirbhar Bharat where the government is working so how we can have a sustainable as we are a lot of trading partners in the global economy where we have a Gulf market, which is the main market, and also the China market, which is the main market for us. Though we are both the manufacturing and the consumption country also, but at the same time, the export sustainability also needs to be looked into forward. And from that perspective, how we need to have this aligned with other international practices or the international requirement, whether it is a TFA agreement or whether it is a WCO or WTO alignment. I think so. We will look forward for having your insights on this part, and really would like to focus as to what is next, what is there next in us when we talk about trade facilitation measures, which is beyond this documentation or simplification of procedure. What is a geopolitical situation which we would really see where we stand and what is there for us in it. So with this, I would really like to thank Dr. Pramod San to organizing this session also with the speaker, eminent speaker, Dr. Pritam ji. And we have also Tej contractor here and also Mr. Dr. Nirav Thakkar here, who is the part of the panelists. Welcome on the panel. and look forward for the insight. With the emergency of our chairman, Mr. Amit Kamath, and IPC, Mr. Dushan Mulani, I think so we can go ahead and thanks to our chairman, Mr. Amit Kamaji, and also Mr. Dushan Mulani for the insights on having such type of webinar for to address our members to take future action accordingly. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Shankarji, for setting the context and a very important topic where all this trade facilitation has started in 2013 in Bali. It got ratified in 2017, and it was expected that it will reduce the cost by 14.3% and increase the trade by 1 trillion. Now we are already from 2017, we are already ahead by so many years, and it is very interesting to see what is there. But before that, I give it to Dr. Pritam Banerjee. I need to introduce him. I know Pritam Banerjee from long time from his CIA days, then the Deutsche Post handling the licensing for entire in India, Asian Development Bank, and now head center of the WTO studies, IFT Department of Commerce. So he is one of the best person to talk about the trade facilitation, which is a WTO initiatives. So I request Dr. Pritam Banerjee to take it ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Pramod Sant. Hope I'm audible. Uh, First, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to Triple FI and the entire community. I consider myself even today to be part of this community, and it's really my privilege to be here today speaking to you. And I am amongst friends and mentors, people I have learned immensely from. Dr. Pramod Sant, of course, is one of them. I have had wonderful interactions with him in various committees that we were part of. Shankar ji, Dushyant ji, all of them are friends and mentors, and I'm so happy to be here. And I apologize sincerely for the delay in starting this discussion. Shankarji has given me a very wide set of topics. I have not perhaps prepared slides for all of them, but what I have, I'm going to focus on is what Dr. Pramod Sant kind of set up the structure for, because we have, as you are aware, India acceded to the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, and then as a response to complying with the obligations that India had taken in that agreement, uh, the government of India formed the NCTF, the National Committee on Trade Facilitation, and the NCTF then came out with the National Trade Facilitation Action Plans, the NTFAP, and three iterations of NTFAP have happened since that time. Now, the NTFAP envisaged many different interventions, some of them related to customs procedures, customs legislation, digitalization, process improvements, etc. And some of them were, that went beyond customs. It went into infrastructure issues at gateway ports and airports. It went into procedural changes with the partner government agencies, and development of further more enriched risk management systems, etc. So India has walked that path. The NTFAPs have been implemented, and I think all of us can agree that we have seen significant improvements in our cross-border trading ecosystem, and it's recognized by the world as well that improvements have happened. What I'm going to try and present to you first today in the next few minutes are some of the next generation reforms that are coming, which I personally believe will make a significant impact once they are implemented. And some of the initiatives come from the recent budget. So, with your permission, I hope you can, see the slides that I have put up. I will go to the slideshow mode. Please tell me if it's visible or not.
Yeah, they're visible.
Perfect. So, if you go back to the trade facilitation philosophy, what are the four fundamentals that, are looked into? Essentially, the objective that WCO gave everyone since the late 1990s was to minimize paperwork, minimize the physical interface between the user of customs and other goods clearance agencies with the trade, minimize discretion available to officers to move to more system based approach, and maximize accountability at the enforcement level. So these were the four kind of pillars that the WCO looks at when it tries to improve systemic improvements in customs administration. Now, we have seen some recent developments which address all of these fundamentals. So when it comes to minimizing paperwork, I think a big change is coming with the Digital Trade Facilitation Bill. It's a draft bill at this point in time. But what it aims to do is provide comprehensive legislation that provides legal equivalence to all digital trade records. With certain controls and certain standards, it allows the digital copies of all trade records to have full legal equivalence with their paper versions. Another important fact is it is technologically neutral, and the legislation is drafted in a manner which means the technology that you are using to create the digital versions, it doesn't matter as long as you adhere to some open standards that the legislation puts forward. And this open architecture allows interoperability between systems, which is very important from a logistics supplier, logistics service provider point of view, because we work with multiple stakeholders who use different operating systems, etc. It very important fact over here is it extends recognition to the documents of title and negotiable instruments. This was a major impediment for many of our important trade documents to be used digitally because the legal equivalence was not there. In terms of whether to be used in the courts of law, to be used in adjudication, you had to use physical versions with physical stamp, signature, etc. So this really introduces the equivalence of digital versions, which will help reduce paperwork. Obviously, this requires amendments to the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 and Indian Stamp Act of 1899, which the legislation provides for. Another very important aspect over here is the international interoperability, because the legislation makes it very clear that if even international, the documents generated digitally outside India will also be held to the same standards. So as long as they meet the open architecture standards of control and quality that the legislation defines, it does not matter where the document originates, which means they are getting full cross-border interoperability. As I said, this legislation will grant full evidentiary validity of these documents in judicial proceedings. So this is a very important step to take care. So we have had a series of digitalization initiatives for the decade plus, but there were certain, let's say, roadblocks. Many of these documents could not be made into full digital version because of the fact that equivalence was not there. They were not accepted in judicial proceedings. They were, so these impediments are being addressed through this act. So this will help India go much more paperless in the future. The second pillar, which is minimizing physical interface, of course, Shankarji already talked about Turant faceless assessment, which has been, of course, to this audience, there would be some skeptics as well who will say perhaps it has not worked exactly as it should have. But yes, given some of that as well, I think we are moving in the right direction. I think what also, a little bit more progress is required is that the assignment of specific, bills of entry or shipping bills, they need to be given to sectors or value chain specialization based formations, because these can be sent to any officer. So many countries are actually, while US has a formal system of centers of excellence by sector, etc. Most other countries do not do that for various complex reasons. But there is no reason for customs to still build domain expertise in their formations over a period of time, because as trade becomes more complicated, then in order to minimize challenges of wrongful assessment and wrongful understanding of trade documents, it's better to have domain specific expertise. So that's the next kind of reform that is being thought of. But faceless assessment is, of course, as you are all aware. But now in the recent, 2026, we have had some very good, progress coming in. One is, of course, the provision for auto goods registration. This is being done, as you know, in a pilot phase in Navsheva, but the idea is that once the pilot phase is over, this will be extended to all major, gateway ports and airports eventually. One hopes this will be done soon. This is obviously going to, help cut time and, inefficiency significantly. The extension of auto out of charge for all importers. This is also a huge development because again, this was a long time demand from the trade, and I don't need to underline the importance of this to my colleagues sitting in this particular discussion. Same for auto late export order. So essentially, if I combine these three, the auto goods registration, auto out of charge, and auto late export order, then many of the physical interfaces that were still existing in the system will now be slowly, eventually ironed out. So that will lead to, one hopes, much faster turnaround and less complications for trade. Of course, a little bit more controversial but important initiative is Scan Every Container initiative that was also launched in this budget. Now, the important goal over here is that it plans to eliminate manual container inspections, which you all know was not something that is highly efficient, and it had its own significant problems in terms of transparency, terms of operational efficiency also. And the aim is to deploy these AI-driven scanners, which are capable of real-time analysis to identify anomalies, and therefore eliminate the need for physical inspections altogether. Of course, again, this will be launched given you need to have the right equipment and all of that in place. You need to have also the skilled manpower to support the operationalization of this equipment in place. So it's going to take a while to implement it. But again, the goal is to have this ready and working over a period of time in all major gateway ports and especially major ports to start with. Now, when I say major ports, I don't mean major ports in definition of the major ports by legislation. I mean important ports that handle most of our freight. So but of course, a lot of people have raised the question that do we really need to scan every container? Should not this also be risk based? Because if no matter how good an equipment you have or how many equipments you have, this might become a bottleneck as the volume of trade increases. But this is one very important initiative to reduce manual intervention and physical interface. Of course, the other area where significant developments are being considered is the minimization of discretion. And this is really the key to driving reforms, as all of us would agree in the customs and cross-border trade ecosystem. So the stated plan is to develop a customs integrated system, which is a single platform that will replace all the existing legacy systems that sit in silos. So you have now, the e-Sanchit, you have Swift, you have many systems that sit there, as a part of, IceGate connects all of them. But the idea is to move forward and have a single customs integrated system that will integrate all of these elements of both, data that is generated of declarations and also X-ray images, EC logs, all of this, and in a historical manner to generate a comprehensive risk management response. So that would be, something that countries like Singapore and a few advanced administrations have done, which really helps speed up clearance processes and definitely helps eliminate a lot of discretion. And hopefully this is something that we will work towards. But right now there is no certainty whether this is the pathway. Seems to be the aspiration. But in terms of when you have discussions with our colleagues in customs and elsewhere, we are not 100% sure whether the vision aligns with the way the operationalization is being looked at. The other important area which is work in progress is actually risk management systems for all the important PGS. Now, as all of you would be aware, that some of the PGS do have rudimentary risk management systems, and I have worked with them in my time in ADB, and I can tell you these are very rudimentary. And there was an attempt to improve the risk management systems, looking at best practices in other countries. But that's a work in progress. And that definitely, once that is there, that, these risk management systems are improved and they become fully integrated with the overall RMS that we have for customs, that will definitely help cut down a lot of challenges. Again, what a lot of us in within, think tanks in the government and otherwise, we have been discussing internally, is that we should not actually aim to scan every container. There are pros and cons on both sides. But the con or the pushback largely is that, as our trade volumes grows and, container volumes grow at ports, scanning every container might not be a very operationally feasible thing to do. You should have much more targeting and you only do it for a few containers. Of course, what has also worked in favor of reducing discretion is, all of these facilitations that customs have been running for a while. So extension of DPD and DPE to launch larger number of, manufacturers and, different categories of AEOs, expanding the which what happened in this budget in expanding the AEO to include a much wider base of firms. So this eligible manufacturer category has now been fully established, and this is being hopefully will bring in a lot many more entities within this umbrella. One thing that we have been discussing is that uh, the AEO program can actually be extended suo moto instead of an application process. If firms can meet certain very basic requirements. So, if there are certain threshold of revenue, trade, and, compliance in the past 3 years, including not having any, criminal adjudication, etc., in its recent history, and certain thresholds for GST returns, etc. One could look at a number of indicators, and using that, one could extend suo moto to all manufacturing entities who meet that requirement. And this is now much more easier to do because a lot of the firm specific data is in one place. You have GST data, you have customs data, all electronic data that is available. So you can simply build some algorithms to identify these entities and by suo moto extend the AU, at least the tier one, to start with, to all of these firms who qualify, instead of having a cumbersome application process, just to ensure that you have greater facilitation. The other suggestion is that, one of the good benefits that many firms like is the deferred duty payment scheme. And they are not available to tier 1 AUs. And most of the tier 1 AUs are MSMEs. The ones who have the maximum cash flow issues are the tier 1 AUs, who would be perhaps most benefited by this facilitation. Of course, the concern is that that might lead to some revenue leakage, etc. But CBIC could easily run some pilot schemes for tier 1 AUs to see how it works, and if it is working well, then kind of extend it to all tier 1 AUs as well. The last one is maximize accountability, and this is the most interesting and perhaps complicated part. And I'm sure my colleagues here would agree that you can have a large number of facilitation initiatives, rules, procedural changes, even technological and digital interventions. But the pie is as good as the eating, and enforcement is where it pinches. And even today, when we have discussions on trade facilitation, there are often many enforcement related challenges, issues, etc., that arise, and that is natural. And I must compliment the entire FFI community for the proactive role they have played in raising their voice and trying to find amicable solutions to all of these challenges systematically. But these are some broad discussions. Feasibility, practicality is something that needs to be debated. One is what the US is increasingly doing, the Customs and Border Patrol, uh, copying from their police departments. They use these body-worn cameras to record all interaction between public and custom officials. This is a mandatory requirement now, increasingly. So that is one transparency, factor. Many countries are also experimenting with what is called integrated testing. So you have an independent third party that goes at the port level. They assume the persona of a business who is trying to clear goods or an agent who is trying to clear goods, and they see exactly what the process is. Are there deviations from the stated norms? Are there rent seeking or other challenges that is quite rampant in the field formations? And then they come up with a very comprehensive port level audit report, which helps administrations get a sense of what's happening on the ground. The other one is, which is something called the Transparency Advisory Committee, which, most countries do not set it up within the ambit of the customs administration. So it should not be in CBIC or Department of Revenue, but in another ministry, maybe in the case of India, Department of Commerce or DPIIT. And this includes 40 to 60 members representing key stakeholders, of course, which will include colleagues from FFI and key businesses who are in import-export trade. And they, amongst themselves, this group of this advisory committee, they develop a detailed annual report highlighting operational issues, so not legislative or legal issues, operational issues at the port level. And this comprehensive report is presented in the countries that have this system. It is presented to the designated parliamentary committees and of course the ministries concerned. So these are some of the kind of practices that are perhaps we can also look at in the future to further improve the accountability of enforcement. This is really all I have in terms of the presentation. Since Shinde sir asked me to quickly talk a little bit about, maybe I'll just address the two issues. One is India's, FTA, where it is going, leading us, and second, a little bit on the recent crises that we are facing. On the FTA front, as you are all aware, the recent last few years, India has focused on the key markets where our exports go to get binding commitments on both goods and services market access and other provisions that will help Indian exporters deal with meeting the compliance requirements which go beyond customs. So, standards, product standards, etc. The strategy that Indian government has right now is that if we leave out China, which is a problematic challenge for all of us, India should by 2028, 2029 have FTAs in place with all those regions and countries which account for close to 90% of both my export and imports. So if I take out my China pie, from my pie, if I cut out China, the remainder 90% must be covered by bilateral agreements with binding commitments. The reason is very simple. We see geopolitical stress all around us, and these FTAs will provide the kind of certainty that businesses require to invest in supply chains and attract FDI into India. The idea is, of course, to prioritize wealthier countries which are more complementary because they're high cost economies and they don't compete with our manufacturing sector. Essentially, then what will happen is that our MFN tariffs, our non-FTA tariffs, will largely be applicable to China, which will give us the flexibility to respond to Chinese policies in a much more nimble fashion. Today, if we see there is some predatory practice from China, whether it is through dumping or through other measures, there is a very cumbersome process of trade remedies. I don't know if Pramod sir was ever involved in one of those, but it takes a long time. It often takes up to a year to get a anti-dumping duty or a countervailing duty operationalized. By that time, whatever damage had to be done is done. But if your if your bulk of your trade, which is outside FTA, uh, is basically targeting China, you can simply raise your MFN tariffs without creating trouble for any other trade partner. And that you can do at drop of a hat. So if, for example, for a particular product, if we find that we have threat of some predatory practice from China, either dumping or use of subsidies, the government of India will have that flexibility. So that's where the government is trying to head towards. And last but not the least, on the recent crisis, as all of you are aware, the things are heading becoming increasingly complicated. I think the government intervention was first to ensure that, to the extent possible, protect exporters. They have come up with, as you most of you would be aware, on these schemes that allow the trade to take out insurance at much lower costs, etc. There is also attempts to provide more insurance coverage to shippers who are willing to go there. The priority is on ensuring energy supplies at this point in time. But other interventions are also on the anvil. There will be duty remissions and maybe even some uh, relaxation of some other norms. So all of those are being considered to provide trade some relief. This is a serious situation, and everybody is aware of that. And if any of you have any suggestions from your side, I'll be more than happy to make a note of them and put it across to the proper place. So I'll stop there because we should have some time for questions. And once again, I apologize for late start, and if I have not really added any value, and because all of you are experts on your own right in this field, I hope I have been able to add some minimal value at least for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pritam Banerjee. See, your perspective from WTO and involved with so many this thing, it's very useful and very, very clear. I'm very sure that people have got value add. We have Tej contractor here. I request Tej to handle the Q&A session.
Hi, Dr. Banerjee. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to see you after a really long time, even if it's online. And amazing, I've been following you on your posts as well with the recent WTO meeting in Cameroon as well. Thank you for consenting to join with us. So, friends, whatever questions you have as shared, please put in the chat box or in the Q&A. Sir, there is one question which someone has put forward. Is can you enlighten the recent DGFT notification of self-certification of certificate of origin under various preferential trade agreements or free trade agreements? Would that be up your alley to reply, sir?
So on the specifics, I will need to, we can, you have my contact details, the gentleman or lady concerned, you can forward it to me, but I can respond to the broader question. The idea is that in many of our FTAs also, this has become now a norm. Most countries, as a facilitation mechanism, we are offering the self-certification route for certificates of rules of origin, so as to reduce the cost and cumbersomeness of generating these documents. So, in fact, with Korea, we have the digital rules of origin certificate also now, and the attempt would be to move in that direction with many other countries in the coming FTA enforcement, where we move away from paper certificates of rules of origin. So this is a facilitation mechanism to reduce cumbersomeness and cost. And the DGFT notification is essentially operationalizing what we are agreeing in many of these FTA provisions.
Thank you very much, sir. Minesh, you have said that my voice is coming very low. Is it clearer now?
It's little better, but still little low.
But I can hear
we can hear you,
Tej
but
very
it is
clearly.
a little low.
Okay, I will try and raise my voice.
It's much better than earlier, Tej. Go ahead.
Super. So, forgive me, I've got a new computer tech setup, so perhaps it's not configured as well. So, sir, there's another interesting question that's raised, which is to bring out the technocrat and the technologist in you. So, as per WTO directions, there is a lot of progress that's being made to reduce the middleman. It's also mentioned in the WTO TFA in one of the articles. What is the future, in your opinion, of customs brokers?
That is a very interesting question, and yes, correct. So the provision I think being referred to here in the TFA is that it essentially enjoins all WTO member states that use of a customs broker should not be compulsory. Essentially meaning that importers and exporters should be empowered to clear their own goods without the need for an agent. It does not say agents are should not be used. It says the option should be available. Now, I think given the fact that the option is available to all of us to file our own taxes, but many of us still use chartered accountants. So the complexity and the requirement of trade, given global value chains, given free trade agreements that require certain compliances, given the need for customs plus compliances that we have in tax or product standards, etc. I think the CHA community can only be rest assured that your demand will only keep increasing, and as will your need for expertise in new areas. But there is no, I do not see any future without CHs in coming up.
Absolutely well said, sir. So, just to add to what sir has said, we have seen leaps, and we have seen leaps in manufacturing, but that does not mean that manufacturing jobs have gone. There is certainly a big change, especially with dark factories, dark stores, robotics which are coming in. As you mentioned, Ujjwal, the dynamics of business will change. I'll put it in a very simple way. Think of it when our grandparents went to school and what was the skill set they required. Okay. Rewind or actually fast forward to what we require today, and you will see that there is a world of a difference, right? So the kind of funnel that they had, normally a funnel is inverted, but here the exposure, I mean the opportunities are immense, and I think especially with non-tariff barriers and non-tariff measures which come in, the government has just made us extremely important. It is only up to us to promote that value. Sir, I have one question to you. India has had very interesting trade agreements that we have signed in the recent past. One major trade agreement which definitely the authorities are more concerned about is the Dubai trade agreement, of course, because it's a very different trade agreement from other ones. Now, as you mentioned, you said that 90% of the imports and exports that India has with trading partners, with the exception of China, would be covered by FTAs, or that is what the intention of the government is. Where are we in these negotiations, and by when do you think we would perhaps achieve it? Because we've seen a tremendous amount of disruption. I think the last 24 months, I would say the last 12 months per se, have been very interesting in dynamically changing or finding new alternate trade lanes. It is very impressive to see the efforts made by the government in mitigating the geopolitical tensions, and that is resulting in new areas. Could you shed some light on these new lanes, and by when do you expect that we would have some agreements in place? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Tej. So very quickly, as you know, we already have existing FTAs with Southeast Asia, Japan, Korea,
Yes.
and of course we have recently signed with European Union and that the small group called EFTA, which covers whole of Europe and UK. So UK, EFTA, and EU covers the whole of the Europe, and in the GCC, in the Gulf, we already have agreements with Oman and UAE, and we are negotiating, in the process of negotiating with all the other GCC members. We also have now, initiated discussions with Mercosur, which is, important part of Latin America. Our Canada negotiations are back on track. Mercosur includes Brazil, which is the biggest economy of South America. In Australia, New Zealand, we have covered. So essentially now also we are starting with SACU, with South Africa Customs Union, which includes South Africa, and a few other major trading blocks in North Africa and East Africa will start soon. So, once I have given you, and of course with Russia, with so-called the EAEU, which is the Eurasian Economic Union, negotiations also ongoing. So if you now see and think of the global geography, all the G20 economies, and of course, I shouldn't leave out the US, with which we have been also negotiating an agreement. So, if you look at the global geography, all G20 economies and beyond, the top 55 GDPs of the world, excluding China, we already have an agreement or we are negotiating one. So, essentially, that's what I was trying to drive at, that I will have FTAs in place with all the major markets of the world by 2028, 2029, with the exception of China. Naturally, these major markets account for close to 90% of my export and imports if I leave out China's share. So, that small 10% will be with small countries, that do not fall in this bucket. Might be some minor South American and African economies with whom we might not have an FTA. But besides that, we'll have an FTA with all economies. And the idea is that FTAs are much more deeper. They allow us to have commitments in goods and services that go beyond my MFN. And they allow me to therefore integrate with global value chains. So that's the whole, trajectory that we are looking at.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, sir, you have, I think, with the exception of a few places, covered the whole world. I mean, that's definitely a stepping stone towards Vision 2047 and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Sir, in continuation with my earlier question, are we looking at doing something with the African continental free trade area as well? Because you mentioned SACU, but erstwhile we've seen an explosion of growth within this region as well. But there was no mention. Are we looking at talking with unions or typical trade lanes there, or are we talking about with the whole continental trade agreements?
So, wonderful question again. So, definitely the ambition is to have it with the Continental Union, but the Continental Union is also work in progress. So, we cannot, plan in that way that when will they be ready, so we will be ready. The idea is to have the building blocks. The reason why we are doing with SACU as a customs union, it makes sense to have an agreement with the whole customs union because they have a common effective customs duty. In the case of, COMESA economies, for example, we had just initiated discussions with Kenya, which is an important economy from an Indian point of view. We are discussing also in the West Africa with countries like Nigeria and Senegal. As you know, they have a union called ECOWAS. It's not a customs union; it's a regional union. But we are looking at ECOWAS countries in West Africa as well. So we are looking at large chunks of Africa, especially those countries which either have a very strong Indian diaspora linkage and therefore a trade linkage, or where we are investing in, with a mindful of our raw material and energy needs. So with all of those countries, we are considering FTAs. Obviously, capacity constraints are there, so you have to prioritize. So you prioritize the bigger economy. So SACU will be the first one, but because South Africa is a major economy there, but other ones will also follow.
Very interesting, sir. And of course, we have the current WCO chairman who is from South Africa, so that would certainly have a great impact on our impending discussions. Sir, we'll come back to the FTA questions later. We have one very interesting question which has come up, which Mr. Mahanand has said, with the Digital Trade Facilitation Bill aligned with UNCITRAL. How soon do we expect the legal recognition on the electronic bill of lading to translate to market adoption? Just to give you a precursor to the question, you would be well aware that FIATA is the International Freight Forwarding Association, and we came up with the FIATA Bill of Lading about 5 years ago. And Triple FAI has also signed the distribution agreement. The Bill of Lading in both forms has in principle been released at the hands of Honorable Shipping Minister Sonewal sir when he had come for our Triple FAI convention. How soon do we see the EBL going mainstream? Because we don't see demand from trade. We meet bankers who say it's definitely on the cards, we want to adapt. We meet people from the department who would love to see such measures because it mitigates the risk of fraud and gives more accurate information. As FIATA, we even have an API built in with the WCO data model project, to look at a transmission of manifest data directly. So when do you think India will come out with a regulation to adopt the electronic bill of lading frameworks?
So I think in the draft bill itself, and I'd love to hear your views also, Tej, on this. I think the draft bill basically addresses all the impediments that we had or the pushbacks that we had. Now, once the draft bill is in force, well, there are really no reasons for lack of adoption in my mind, because the architecture that is being suggested by the bill is also very open-ended, right? So it allows you, if you meet the basic security and other requirements, any service provider, including FIATA, will be able to, offer its services for not just the e-bill of lading, but for any digital, document for trade, and they will have full equivalence. So there is now no reason for it not to be adopted. I think the adoption will be driven, in my mind, by three factors. One is the larger firms will obviously, in my mind, I stand to be corrected, will be first movers because it also helps them align with whatever they are doing globally. But when it comes to the smaller players, smaller users, they will need some capacity building. They will need some services to be provided. The systems to be developed, etc. So there might be some challenges there, where I think institutions like FIATA and Triple FAI can play a very important role in disseminating the advantages, and the ease, and see the fact that there is full legal protection for all of this. That they don't stand to lose by having digital versions of these documents. So the adoption will be, in my mind, quite quick. We have seen that once laws are in place and systems are in place in India, digital adoption goes much faster than even developed countries. In many cases, if I see, not in just the trade field, but in any aspect of our economy, digital solutions in India are very, very quickly adopted, and I don't see that being a problem. I think the important issue was to clarify the legal architecture, which the draft bill does. But Tej, I would love to hear your views, because you are really the man on the ground on this.
Sir, thank you very much, for answering the question and then putting the more difficult one back. But just, sir, so I have been working on the e-bill of lading as chair of IT for FIATA over the last 3 years. But what we have seen typically is that the demand from trade remains lukewarm. You are absolutely correct. In large firms, adoption has taken place. If you see, Reliance has taken it on. Large oil transactions, which we do government to government or private entities to private entities, are also on the chain. And not from now. We are talking about way back since 2009, those transactions started. For general trade, I think the biggest challenge that we have is habit. So old habits die hard. So we are so used to having that piece of paper in our hand that adaptation will certainly, take a little bit of time. I would say acceptance will take a little bit of time. As you rightly pointed out, adaptation will take place, rapidly. I would like to share. I did a lot of work. In fact, I presented in 2023 on the progress made under TFA. So the TF committee regularly visits our FIATA meetings because, of course, the member nations are a part of the framework, and they wanted to see what implementations have taken place. So I had the honor of presenting what progress has India made in terms of the NCTF, and I'm pleased to share with everyone here that India has probably leap-folded, fivefold, with what is discussed, the regularity of meetings and the action plan. I think we are probably in the top few in the world to have, achieved what we have achieved. No doubt, some of our commitments have rolled out. They have some improvements that can come to them, but the fact that we have taken that effort in the right direction is where we stand. But digital trade is here to stay. Sir, I would just like to share with you and also to the audience, I was a part of the International Chamber of Commerce working group where we created a document to simplify trade documents into text. Basically, it was called the ICC Key Trade Data Elements, committee. What we basically did is took 39 trade documents that take place. Sahu sir, who was earlier with us and now with the World Bank, was also a contributor in the third phase of that, and it was a pleasure to be a part of that team as well, where we have taken the digital elements and mapped them across documents. So we had representatives from the WTO, WCO as well who were a part of that, and that has come out to a cross-border toolkit which is available for public administrations to adapt. To the audience, one very interesting thing is the custom integrated system which is on the card. I am really happy to share the data inputs and how we have aligned. So we are one of the few countries that have aligned our custom data elements also to the WCO data model. So while we see public notices and trade agreements flowing through, it is also behind the scenes. We have people like Dr. Banerjee, and also members of the CBIC who are doing a lot of work which we don't see. Sir, before I roll out my last question, or actually I'll roll out my last question for you, and then I'll hand it over for further proceeds. One very interesting concept which was there earlier was the transfer of an export manifest to be an import manifest in a country. This was a wish, during my dad's time, from 2009 this was discussed till 2014, if I stand corrected, and eventually it was dropped. So, we brokers spend a lot of time, effort and energy having declarations made at origin. It would just be simple to replicate that data or reciprocate and transfer that data to destination. It would reduce or mitigate the chance of data manipulation as well. Why do you think that has not taken place, and do we see a future in that?
So, I was also a part of many of these discussions that, and this wish list was, a very genuine one. And as you rightly point out, in terms of data sanctity, there could be perhaps no better way. But regulators, not just in India, but across the world, have certain concerns. One is that in terms of the classification of goods, because different countries tend to or different so not just in terms of the way it is classified, but the perception of classification might change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So that's one. So can there be exact translation, in this sense, not the linguistic translation, but in terms of the classification of goods? There are also concerns regarding, while one school of thought, as you rightly point out, that this will actually reduce chances of fraud. There are certain regulators who think this might actually create new avenues for fraud, because in some sense, while you're enforcing a discipline on two sides to align and come up with a the single version of truth. While one of the interesting discussions in the TFA was that there was a provision on customs cooperation, which was very strongly pushed by India. It was resisted by especially developed countries who did not want this. Uh, the reason was what the developing country customs administrations thought the better way is that you force entities on both sides to file their own documents or all their own declarations, and then have some way where on a sample basis you can cross check with the origin country. So that was their architecture for greater due diligence, which was not accepted. But again, I think in this world now that we are moving, this was a discussion that happened more than a decade or even more than that ago. The architecture of provenance and architecture of ensuring that you have the similar data sanctity, etc., has now increased significantly. There are all kinds of tools, and they are easy tools to have. So maybe is a good time to start that discussion again with the technology solutions suggested, which will assuage some of the concerns we are discussing. For example, I don't know, Tej, whether this is something if IATA or somebody else is working on. This is something that definitely in Deutsche Post DHL we were working on even when I was there. Is how do we use some AI tools to convert classification from one geography to another in a very meaningful manner. So, these kind of solutions, if they come, I think we'll go in the right direction. Again, I'm open to being contradicted, but yeah.
Oh, sir, you're absolutely right. In fact, there is a lot of, it's very interesting. I did not think of, you know, uh, the concept of classification being unique to specific regions. But, uh, come to think of it, we have advanced rulings. And it is these advanced rulings that effectively make a huge difference in each geography. So you have, let's say, Japan saying one thing, and you have Germany contradicting the same. So it would certainly get more complicated. But sir, I would like to thank you for being here and taking Q&A with us. It was a pleasure speaking to you once again, even if I would prefer it being in person next time, sir. Next time we are in Delhi, you'd love to get an audience. I now hand it over to San sir to continue, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Tej. It was a
Sorry,
very
once again, to the audience, you have been wonderful with your questions. This topic is the future. It's like holding a crystal ball. If you are able to guide your customer on how business is going to take place, I think your importance with your customer is just going to get better and better and better. So take advantage of reading the WTO TFA, reading the trade agreements. And sir, there is only one humble request which trade has. Even today, there was a Swiss company which was there on practical implementation. We have grassroots challenges. At the time of clearances, the Form 1 is being requested for often when shipments are cleared again and again. Foreign buyers are not happy to complete the Form 1. So if we can have some sort of simplification of Carotar, it would really, really benefit all of us. Thank you, Sant sir. Over to you.
With permission from Dr. Sant, can I quickly respond to what
yes,
Tej?
yes,
Because very
absolutely.
important point he has raised. So,
Absolutely.
So Tej, this is an internal discussion I can, share with you, that there is the concern that you have raised, regulators are cognizant with, and it's an issue that is being really debated. While I cannot right now say that we will have one solution or the other, I think I can say with some confidence that you will see good progress on this issue in very short time.
Great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the positive response. Sensor, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tej, for handling this Q&A. It's very important. And I just wanted to see, it's very important, as Tej also mentioned, it's very important to look into what is the future, whether it is through crystal ball or it is the 6 slides of Dr. Pritam Banerjee. They will give you a great insight of what is going to happen. And when we align with that, I think that is most important. And thank you, Dr. Pritam Banerjee, for this insightful thing. I now hand it over to the Dr. Nirav for a formal vote of thanks. There are some questions we will go through once again, and if they are related with topic, we will send them to Dr. Pritam Banerjee and come back for feedback. Yeah, so over to you, Dr. Nirav.
Thank you, Dr. Sant. And once again, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Federation of Freight Forwarders Associations in India, I extend my sincere gratitude to all of you who have contributed for the success of today's webinar. First and foremost, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Pritam Banerjee for delivering such a deeply insightful and thought-provoking session. Trade facilitation is actually a common terminology for custom brokers and freight forwarders, but you have really well explained and highlighted about the digital trade facilitation bill, and especially your ability to simplify complex policy frameworks and connect them with practical industry realities was truly enriching for today's session. And this helped us in understanding the evolving landscape for the global trade facilitation field. Many other perspectives are shared by you on regulatory reforms, situations in the current geopolitical condition, very interesting facts on the current and the upcoming FTAs shared by you. This all is going to be helpful to our industry, all the stakeholders here, and it will help in navigating the future with great clarity. We are extremely thankful to our chairman, Mr. Amit Kamatji, for conceptualizing this initiative and the commitment to the capacity building and knowledge sharing across our members. The support of all the office bearers and EC members has been instrumental in today's topic, and the speaker selection as well, and the overall success. As acknowledged by Dr. Banerjee about the proactiveness of FAI of timely representation to various departments is highly appreciative of the team under leadership of Mr. Amit Kamath. I thank you all participants for an enthusiastic engagement. Your presence reflects the collective intent that our intent of our industry to evolve, adapt, and stay aligned with the global developments. Special appreciation note goes to Mr. Shankar Shinde, Mr. Tej Contractor, Mr. Sagar, with the members of the Secretariat, and none other than Dr. Pramod Sant for seamlessly coordinating this session and ensuring a smooth execution. Our Honorary Secretary, Mr. Sudeep Dey, who has a very important role to play in today's webinar, but he had to travel last minute for an important meeting. So basically, I'm playing his role, but thanks to his deep involvement with the entire planning execution of today's program. And yes, as we conclude today's discussion, it inspires all of us to view trade facilitation not only from a procedural requirement, but as a strategic enabler of the growth and the competitiveness. So thank you once again, Dr. Banerjee, and to all the participants. We look forward to the continuous association with FAI for all the future initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.